and I will just share my screen really quick, and going to turn on the timer to keep me in check. Okay. All right, I am Kyle. There are a lot of new faces here. There's a lot of transition. I'm on the secure team, so I'm going to quickly just take a look at who is on the team right now. And so you know, when I say we in this presentation, who I'm referring to. Okay, so Valerie is our UX manager for Secure and Defend. Secure and Defend are sort of merged at the moment. And Tally is leading our research efforts for Secure and Defend. Me, of course, Camelia and Annabelle is transitioning over. And Andy is actually transitioning to Defend, and Becca is on Defend. Okay, so about what we're talking about today is we're talking about the UX around setting up security scans to activate secure features. This is important because it's a prerequisite for the features actually working. I'm highlighting this because configuration is our first touch point with the customer in terms of after maybe there's a couple situations that could bring them here. It's maybe they upgraded from a lower tier and now they're an ultimate user and Secure drove that sale. Maybe this is a feature they want to use, or maybe it's a new account entirely. And so they want to use the Secure features. Today, what we're going to look at is how do they activate those and get those working. I just want to mention that our long-term vision is to have as little configuration as possible. Of course, you know, I think that's all of our vision, but we really want these to be out of the box UX. We want them to be turned on. So in those situations I described, we don't want any barriers to entry. At the moment, configuration is something they have to do. But what we're going to take a look at today is what are those small iterative steps that we're taking to make it a little bit better. Okay, so the current UX would be as follows. So going back to those two situations where maybe a customer upgraded, it's a new account, must be some nudge that we want to add secure features. Whatever that nudge may be, they would likely end up on the documentation page. To which case, and I'm actually just going to go to the main documentation page just to show the different scans. So we have container scanning, dependency list, dependency scanning, sorry, I repeated that, DAS, which is dynamic application security, license compliance, and then static application security. Now for the scans that I just pointed out, there's two ways that these could be activated. They could be configured individually, which we'll take a look at right now, or Auto DevOps will actually cover those. So that would be covered. So that is a little bit closer to the out-of-the-box experience. Now the results of some of these scans would be seen on the security dashboard or the merge request or in their respective section. For example, dependency scanning results would be seen on the dashboard, but also in the dependency list. License compliance would be seen on the license compliance list. Let's take a look at SaaS though. So I'm on back to the UX of setting this up. The user would be taking a look at this documentation for configuration, and this template right here, this script would need to be added to the GitLab YAML file. So the next step would be to do that, to create a merge request with the changes. And then once that's successful and that merge request is merged into the project, the future pipeline jobs will have that respective security job or jobs in the pipeline. So those scans will be performed at that point. Okay, so that is the current UX. Well, we found out this wasn't going so well. And how did we know? UX research told us that. And we did a research study here. By the way, there's all these links. If you're interested, you can come back and take a look at them. I will click on some, but not all. But we really found that the expectations with users is they come to a project and they're just looking for an on switch, or they're just looking for the vulnerabilities, the output. They weren't thinking of it as the UX that I just showed you. The results were when the user was tasked with just one scan. So the task was go and configure SaaS for this project. We found that 1 out of 5, only 1 out of 5 was able to do that task successfully. And this subnote, I'm just going to call this out. Of this unsuccessful 4, 3 were unsuccessful, even though they received direct, straight up instructions from the moderator. So this experience, going back to this kind of being our first customer touch point, is not great. This is kind of like our first date in the relationship, and it's off to a bad start. So based on that information, we wanted to iterate on an MVC. One thing that we did find was that users were navigating to the left. They were naturally going to the left navigation, and they were finding the security section. So that was a very important finding, and we subsequently leveraged that finding in because they were expecting to find, oh, where's the on switch? Where's the on off switch? And they were going to this left navigation that we see here, and they were typically going to security dashboard and not finding that on switch and getting confused. In this iteration, we now have this configuration section here. When they land on the configuration page, what they will see is the secure features. So these are the scans that I outlined earlier, and the status of whether or not they're configured or not yet configured. For this iteration, it's giving a status based on the default branch. One reason for that is the output of vulnerability seen in the security dashboard is the output of scans from the default branch. We'll come back to that subject. But this UI also surfaces the documentation, and it better guides the user first to knowing what scans are available to them. So they didn't have to dig through documentation. We just surfaced it in the UI. And then second, here is the documentation for these respective scans to go take a look at that. When they open that, it opens directly to the configuration section. This will also help the situation when a user lands on security dashboard. We can guide them to the configuration page for that same feedback that we took a look at. Right now, they could also land on security dashboard, license compliance page, dependency list, and those just have empty states. Those, again, users were struggling with that in the study we looked at, but we can at least guide them now to that configuration page. As a second step, we ideated on a solution to configure the scans directly from the user interface. And we landed on something that we ended up testing, and I'm gonna just walk through what that looks like now. So this is the familiar information architecture that we took a look at, where the configuration screen would be. And then the user lands on this configuration page. There is a notable difference here, and that is that there's checkboxes now. From here, they can select the scans that they'd like to add. And let's say that we want to select dependency scanning and license compliance, just to see how this would work. So we've selected that, and the call to action has activated to prompt the user to create merge requests. The really interesting thing is when we were testing this, it was the same task as the initial study, which was to configure SaaS. They were very eager to click this, and they were very eager to click the merge request. And so there was definitely a learnability aspect to this, of understanding like how these security scans can be configured. From there, there's the system actions of creating the merge request, seeing if a GitLab YAML file exists. But when they do land on the merge request, in the description, we're leveraging our documentation again. We're letting them know that this will create jobs in your future pipelines. And we're leveraging this wonderful GitLab support page as well, just in case they have any questions along the way. From here, they can look at the diff or just go ahead and merge the merge request as usual. From there, the pipeline will run successfully and future jobs will include that scan. So we went and tested this, the same flow with the same task as the initial study. And so going back to our initial metric where 1 out of 5 was successful with setting up SAST, we now found that 5 out of 5 were successful. And we heard some really great feedback here. It looked straightforward, process was simple, super easy. We retested the same user in one of the same users that was in the first study was in this one, and we got feedback about that. Last time it was totally out of control. So all the things we want to hear, things are getting better. From here, I just want to outline the next steps and some considerations. We did a discovery workflow that had a number of outcome issues, and some of them are related to this. But I want to stop and point out one very important note with all of this is that the screens we were looking at, whether it was the first iteration to give status on what scans are available or the flow to do it directly from the UI, that is targeting the default branch. However, users may add scans to any branch in the project. When users apply these scans to the default branch, the subsequent feature branches that are created will include the scans. So that is a level of automation that's very good. I'm going to come back to one UX bug that we want to solve for there, but there is an issue upcoming to be able to select any branch you want to add these scans to. And then there's also this one though. So let's say the customer is an existing customer and upgraded and has really filled out projects with a lot of branches that already exist and so on and so forth. There is a little bit of a UX bug because the feature branches created before the default branch included scans do not have scans. So that leaves us with a little bug that we want to close out. And that is when the source branch is targeting when the source branch does not have security scans and it's targeting a branch that does have scans, it could be introducing vulnerabilities without anyone knowing. So in the merge request, we want to handle this by surfacing that exists to the user, and there could be a recommendation that they rebase. Now, rebasing is a great go-to Git command to leverage here because it changes history a bit and puts this merge request at the head of the default branch. One thing we could also do is actually make rebase as a requirement just to ensure security is truly baked into this and any target branches with scans. Okay, I have 2 more minutes. Any target branches are not introducing vulnerabilities without the system knowing. Okay, just the last few points is as new features are rolled out, there's certainly a long, great roadmap of different features for secure. We can add them to this page so users can be up to date and they can easily configure them. Also, I put a link here of a very interesting issue of marketing to lower teams. There's some great growth efforts. It's possible that these screens could be leveraged for some of the growth efforts there as well. And just because I'm about, I think I have about 2 minutes, I want to just say one other thing for awareness. SAST, which is one of our scanners, is moving down to core and lower tiers to where it is currently only in ultimate. There will be a number of other scanners to follow and features to follow, but this will be the first one. It's a very interesting issue to look into. It's something we're all very excited about on the secure team. And it's really good stewardship because we're leveraging open source scanners for that SAST. So bringing it down makes a lot of sense. And I said I opened it and I'll close with it, is our long-term goal is definitely automating this whole process as much as we can. So we want it on out of the box.
Awesome. Great job, Kyle. Really appreciate you presenting.